You're tuned into DecayMag podcast, online source for horror, thriller and sci-fi entertainment news.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Ken Artuz, your host. I'm the founder for DecayMag, and my co-host this evening is
Stacey Cox, staff correspondent for DecayMag.com. Be sure to stop by our Patreon page at patreon.com/DecayMag. Your donations will help us bring future episodes. As a patron, you will receive bonus content as well as free and discounted on upcoming DecayMag merchandise.
And in this episode, Season 9, Episode 2, we have exclusive interviews covering the film titled Fantasma, which undergone a title change to Bloody Ballet. We interviewed director and co-writer of Fantasma, aka Bloody Ballet, Brett Mullen, as well as actress Katie Carpenter and actress Kendra Carelli. Do stay tuned for those exclusive interviews, and also log on to DecayMag.com for our film review on Fantasma, which underwent a title change, Bloody Ballet. Stacey, here we go again. I prefer the title Fantasma, but it's now in the distribution phase. It's going to release right now in November 2018, and they changed the title to Bloody Ballet. What do you think about that?
Oh, that's so bad. That's so bad. I was just sitting up. You should have saw my face expression when you mentioned Bloody Ballet. I'm like, wait, what? That's like Fantasma sounds so much more badass.
Right, exactly. And if you go to IMDb, they even changed the title, the artwork, as well as the title. The artwork looks retro, and the new artwork that they have for Bloody Ballet, it just seems generic. And not only that, the new cover reminds me of Ballet of Blood that released in 2015. It almost looks exactly the same.
I was just up here looking for Fantasma. Fantasma.
Yes, that is a new film.
Neither one is coming up for me.
Yeah, it's
Is it the 2018
2017
TV miniseries?
No, it's 2017. There
I don't know why
are
it's not
two.
coming up for me.
It was quite difficult for me to find it. I was looking for it for some reason, and then I found it under the director's name, Brett Mullen. But in any event, that's one area of filmmakers have to be aware of. You could name your film a badass name, but eventually for distribution it'll get changed.
Yeah, that's so bad. I actually found it now. I was spelling it with the PH, not an F. Well, okay. Beautiful ballerina. Okay, I guess I understand why they changed it to Bloody Ballet, but now...
I even mentioned it in the interview with Brett Mullen about the title change. Fantasma just seems badass, and the artwork. And look at that artwork. The artwork looks cool, and we're gonna have to contact our content contributor David Teixeira. I think his serial killer is in the poster. He's right in the background, right there, next to the guy with the red face. Doesn't he look like him?
Oh yeah. Well, who comes up with these name changes?
It's all about marketing. It's all about sales, and it has to go through the decision table. Of course, it's not just one person. I assume there's a group of people who sit around a table and come up with these ideas. Hey, yeah, let's change the name so that way we could sell it at Walmart, or we could sell it whatever it's going to be at. Yeah, it's going to generate sales, but if you keep it as Fantasma, it doesn't have that sound, that punch, whatever it is, that lingo that they use now for sales marketing. Yeah.
Okay, I guess. And I was looking at the Ballet of Blood, as you mentioned, and I can, I see the resemblance in the cover art.
Yeah. But that's our exclusive coverage. As I mentioned, we have an interview with Brett Mullen, director and co-writer, the actress Katie Carpenter, and the actress Kendra Carelli. So stay tuned for that. We also have movie news, TV streaming news, and of course, we're going to conclude our podcast with trailer first impressions.
Segment 1 movie news. Is Night of the Living Dead 2 in development?
Night of the Living Dead. Wow, I can't believe that so many years have passed by. 50-year anniversary, to be exact, for this classic tale of the living dead attacking the living. Wow, the social commentary behind that film really emphasized the sign of the times, and George Romero came up with the great idea which spawned the zombie franchise. There's so many countless zombie movies out there, from comedy to action, and of course the great debate on whether infection films fall under the zombie category. I don't think so. That's two separate things. In any event, Stacy, have you had a chance to see Night of the Living Dead? Please say yes. That's a classic horror film.
Oh, you don't know how bad I feel to say no. Not yet. I haven't.
You
not
haven't
the
seen
original. What?
You haven't seen the
not
black
the
and white.
Original.
The black and white one. The black and white one. That's the original.
Yes. No, I haven't seen it yet.
But okay, so which one have you seen? You seen the reboot?
Well, let me see if I've even seen the reboot.
I believe there were 2 reboots or 1 reboot. But in any event, as you're searching IMDb to jog your memory, this news just came out. It's on the decision table. It's not even in pre-production. It's just an idea right now. And according to Bloody Disgusting, Living Dead Media relayed a message over to them stating that a sequel was written right after the producers and original writers came up and completed Night of the Living Dead. So that sequel has been sitting somewhere for over the past few years until now. So the creative heads at Living Dead Media are going to make this film, Night of the Living Dead Part 2, and they plan to release it in 2019. So all the details surrounding this film project is being secret. Well, let's see what happens with that. So Stacy, have you found out if you've seen the reboot for Night of the Living Dead?
No, I haven't seen it. I was looking it up. No.
Well, but there have been countless Night of the Living Dead. There's Land of the Dead. There's Dawn of the Dead. Evening of the Dead. There's so many films that fall under that category from George Romero. You've seen any of them? Yes, you have.
I think I've seen Dawn of the Dead with Ving Rhames. Yeah, I've seen that one.
Right, that's the reboot. And let me tell you, as much as I dislike reboots, that particular one really took the idea to the next level. I love that film. I think I've seen that film more than 50 times. I have it on DVD. So what is your opinion, Stacy? Here we go. They're gonna come up with a sequel for Night of the Living Dead. I think they should just leave it alone. If it's been so many years, it's gonna be hard to bring back an old concept to modern time. They're gonna have to put some like Dawn of the Dead, really think outside the box and make it more exciting, more action.
Well, I was interested in this because it says it's coming from the original team. And despite me haven't seen it yet, I think that's a great idea. It reminds me of, John Carpenter coming back for Halloween. It's exciting, to know that the original team is behind it. So that alone right there gives hope that it will be done justice.
That's true too. But on the flip side too, it also brings back, okay, take for example Halloween. It had so much hype because John Carpenter was behind it, but I haven't heard nothing. It's been quiet ever since Halloween was released. Not even on Instagram, I haven't seen no one really say, oh wow, this is a great film. Everyone stood quiet. So either it didn't live up to the hype and nobody wants to say anything about it. But I know what you're coming from. Yeah, if it's the original team.
That lengthy conversation me, you, Stephen, and Paul had about it. Remember, I was so confused because I'm thinking back over all of the other Halloween films and how it's tying in to the reboot, and just thinking that it doesn't really make any sense. And then Steven had to pretty much break it down for me. But I mean, who would have ever really guessed that? Remember from the first one, they had a seeming as though Laurie Strode was related to him, was his sister, and then Stephen had to clarify that she had no relation to him at all, and he was just pretty much a aimless killer. I'm like, are you serious?
But I wouldn't see that problem here, because Night of the Living Dead, in every film they have different characters, and most likely part 2 would just be a different set of characters set in a different era while these zombies are taking over the earth, rampage or whatever. So I wouldn't see a problem with confusion there. I just want gore. You can't have. That's why Dawn of the Dead, the remake, really stands out. It has gore, action. Yeah. And they running zombies. I know many zombie fans don't like that idea or think it's idiotic, because how can a corpse run if he's dead? Yeah, it doesn't make sense. But of course, it's a film. It's not supposed to make sense. It's supposed to be gruesome.
And notice how some of these movies are getting away from the gore in zombie films. It's like that's one of the whole, concept of a zombie film is gore. Yes. I was watching that Better Off Zed, and I did the review, and I'm just like, I feel like it's not gory enough. Right. For a zombie film.
Hey, George Romero there were other zombie films before Night of the Living Dead, but it was just George Romero's idea that really kicked everything off. So you have films like Better of Zed and Shaun of the Dead that are comedy, and then you have the more extreme versions of the zombie genre. It's so many films, but yeah, it's I'm curious to see what they come up with for Night of the Living Dead Part 2, and I want to see how the horror community really absorbs it and takes it in. Will it be the hype like Halloween that is not met with that hype, or would it exceed hype? Let's see and find out.
Andrew Lincoln to portray Rick Grimes in film Trilogy.
Well, Stacy, I don't know if you have been following the Walking Dead television series on AMC. Recently, they got rid of their main character, Rick Grimes, portrayed by Andrew Lincoln. And now the storyline just did a time jump into the future, in which his infant daughter, she's about 8 or 9 years old now, and looks like she's going to be taking over the role of his character sooner or later. There's a lot of complications behind The Walking Dead. Some cast members left there before the contracts was up, and all these discussions and arguments and stuff like that. So Andrew Lincoln said, yeah, let me step away from this role. Let me move on to bigger things. But it doesn't mean that he's not going to portray Rick Grimes ever. According to Entertainment Weekly, AMC Studios is going to be unveiling a trilogy, 3 films about Rick Grimes, especially the events that happened to him. That last episode that fans seen him, that he was hurt and a helicopter whisked him away. So we don't know what happened to him at that point. So these 3 films are going to be all about him. Any opinions on The Walking Dead? Have you seen it? And what do you think about AMC coming up with their online content? It looks like they're going to compete with Netflix or something like that.
Well, I still have not seen The Walking Dead. I've seen the very first episode. But seeing as though how it seems like a lot of fans of the show were sad about Rick Grimes leaving, I think this is a great idea. Now the films are going to be centered on him. So in the case of the fans, I do feel like this is awesome.
Hey, I think this is a great idea. And if AMC Studios plays it right and they kick off their streaming content with The Walking Dead, then we could see other shows doing the same thing, or perhaps a spin-off series going to AMC. Remember, streaming service is the hot shit now, and it's all because of Netflix. Everybody wants to compete with Netflix, especially horror. You have Shudder, then you have other companies like Hulu and an anime company. I forgot which one it is, but everybody wants to jump on online streaming.
Well, the thing about that is, in terms of horror per se, I don't feel like I don't feel like Netflix competes with horror. Netflix competes with Shudder. But I feel like all these different streaming outlets, they are imagining their own brand, while Shudder and Hulu is catering to all genres. You know, you got Shudder, which is mainly horror, or, you know, you mentioned the anime streaming outlet. So I do think that that's why Netflix and Hulu are so popular, are probably above all the rest, especially Netflix, which is attaining even more rights to original films and series than the rest.
Right. So on the topic of The Walking Dead, Andrew Lincoln, when asked about the films, these trilogy films, and if they began filming, he states, quote, "I am extremely hard at work on the first one right now and most likely filming next year. Though I'm freaking out about deadlines right now, so I'm not going to tell you exactly when because it would only make me pass out," unquote. So they're already filming the first film for Rick Grimes' The Walking Dead, and it's an interesting point that you make. Shudder, everybody's trying to make their own stamp on online streaming, just like Shudder, and they're focusing on horror. Netflix is general. But the thing with Netflix is, have you seen what they're doing lately? The Netflix original films that they have, it's a lot of it, I think the majority of it is science fiction and horror.
Yes, and I remember at one point where Netflix used to, I'm not going to say suck, but it wasn't that great. But now that they, sorry, it was that point, you know. But as Netflix became more and more popular, it pretty much just shut down the movie stores, you know, Blockbuster and all them. And when it's, you know, gaining all those original films now, yeah. Netflix is really soaring, and it's like the best.
Right, because even recently they had a mini series, Indian from Bollywood. It was a horror series. I think it was just 3 episodes, and that was fantastic. It was creepy. It was well put together, and I can't wait for the next season of that one. But yeah, sooner or later, Stacy, we're not gonna need to get cable or direct TV. Everything's gonna be online on your mobile devices, and I'm hoping AMC Studios play their cards right with these trilogy films about Rick Grimes, because wow, I think the sky's the limit. The popularity for The Walking Dead right now is still high, even though there's a lot of friction with the cast and stuff like that. I could see a few more years for The Walking Dead before the popularity goes down.
Oh yeah, and you know, back to what you said about not needing cable anymore. I'm already there, pretty much. I've been there, like all these streaming, all these streaming outlets you have, you know, not only just the streaming sites, but now you got all these devices. You got the Roku, the Comcast, the Fire Stick, and that gives you hundreds or thousands of sites to stream from, and a lot of them are free. So when you think about that, and then, you know, you got Netflix and Hulu, especially, that's coming with all the TV series.
Right.
You know, so when you think about that, what need is there for cable?
There is no need. There's no need. I'm waiting for my contract to be over, and I'm cutting it off and getting Google Chrome, the Chromecast for the TVs that don't have internet. And the smart TVs, they have already Netflix built in and the internet built in. Hey, come on, you save yourself money. And of course, I assume that AMC Studios, if you have subscription with them. It should be a small fee, and you could get their access to their shows. Hey, there you go.
And I pay for maybe 3. Right now I pay for two streaming sites. The rest of them are free for me, and I recently found out about Pluto TV on Roku, and it's literally free TV. They have different, they got the movie section, they got all the sports sections and all of that. And of course you got the annoying advertisements, but hey, it's free TV. So it's just like you're watching free cable.
Right. Let me tell you, the technology is changing so fast. We're living in good times right now. I can't wait for the next 5 years to see what happens.
Segment 2. Television streaming. Swamp Thing cast developments.
We reported on the upcoming series Swamp Thing based on the DC Comics, and we reported the cast developments, which includes Jennifer Beals, Andy Bean, Virginia Madsen. Now we have some new revelations, new additions to the cast, which include actor Henderson Wade. He'll be portraying the role of Matt Cable. For those unfamiliar with Swamp Thing, such as myself, I've only read the comic book here and there, but according to Deadline, Matt Cable is a character that has been in the Swamp Thing series since the beginning. He was introduced in issue 1 when Swamp Thing made its debut back in 1972. Wow, long time. Swamp Thing is an old guy. Anyway, the character of Matt Cable, he's a federal law enforcement agent, and he is assigned to protect a scientist by the name of Alec Holland, and he fails in his assignment for some strange reason. I am unsure, and I am quite certain that it will be explained in the series. In any event, he blames a mysterious bog monster called Swamp Thing for Alec Holland's death. And Stacy, guess who is portraying Swamp Thing?
Who?
Actor Derek Mears.
Derek Mears.
You're not gonna look him up on IMDb. I'll give you a hint.
Yeah.
You looked him up.
Yeah. Sorry, because I don't know him by name. So a lot of times I gotta see what movies they played in.
He portrayed Jason in the Friday the 13th reboot. It makes sense. He has the height and the build to portray Swamp Thing. I think this role would fit him perfectly. He's like what, 6 foot something and 200 pound. Yeah, Swamp Thing is a big creature. But any event, the cast is getting developed for Swamp Thing. What do you think? Have you have mentioned you unfamiliar with this whole storyline, right?
I'm familiar with the movie Swamp Thing, but I have not seen it yet. But as far as the series go, no, I'm not familiar with that story.
Okay.
Or I should say the comics, right? As far as the comics go, I'm not familiar with that.
Well, the series is going to revolve around the character Abby Arcane. She's going to be portrayed by actress Crystal Reed. And the storyline, the synopsis is Abby investigates what seems to be a deadly swamp-borne virus in a small town in Louisiana, but soon discovers that the swamp holds mystical and terrifying secrets. I'm waiting with anticipation for this series to be released. As I mentioned, I haven't even seen the film. Until you had told me about the film, I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, it's been on my watch list, and I think I found it somewhere and even saved it to that watch list. I just never got back to it.
Yeah, I have to put it on my watch list. And the comic books, I picked it up here and there. It didn't really call my attention. I prefer superheroes that are more human, with natural powers. Like, let's say, for example, a Batman or Daredevil. They're regular average guys. I'm not up for the superhero with the superpowers type things. Never called my attention.
I'm a big, well, you know what? I shouldn't say I'm a big Superman fan. I think Superman was my favorite hero, but then again, I'm not really heavy in the comics and all that. So to say I'm a huge fan would be, I wouldn't take it that far. But out of all of them, Superman and Hulk are the two that I like.
Yeah, the Hulk is cool. For me, it would be Batman, the Punisher, Moon Knight. That's Marvel's version of Batman. Yeah, those, regular average guys that don't have weird powers. But in any event, we know that James Wan is behind the TV series Swamp Thing. He is producing it through Atomic Monster, that's his company, along with Warner Brothers Television. So I'm just waiting. I think this series has potential, a strong plot, a reinvigoration. It's not even a reboot because it's a series, and what you had mentioned earlier is a film. So it's just a reimagination of the comic book.
Yeah, comic books are a completely different world for me. For one, I wouldn't even know how to begin reading a comic book. And someone had given me a graphic novel some years ago, and I still have it. But I took a look at it, and I was like, how do you even read this? How do you even understand it? So I think that's my problem when it comes to comic books. I don't know how to understand them.
Yeah, graphic novels are the new medium for comic books. I don't think. Yeah, I think I wouldn't know. I haven't walked into a comic book store for years, but graphic novels, yeah, it's a book, and you have more chapters in a graphic novel as you would if you pick up one issue of a comic book. So you get more value for your dollar by buying the collection, which is graphic novel. But yeah, I would assume with the technology that we have that the comic book industry would be going downhill. Like, who buys comic books? I'm sure there are people out there that continue to do so.
Well, yeah, they still have those comic book shops, and now they have those apps where you can, for a small fee, you can have access to all the comic books you want to read. I think it's called Comic Hexology or something like that.
Right. But for the hardcore collectors, I think they really want that copy, put it on in frame it, put it in the plastic. I still have old comic books. I keep them in the plastic. I gotta put them up. I only have one up on the wall that I framed from Spawn. Yeah, that's about it. I gotta look for the rest. Well, any event, yeah, I'm looking forward to this. DC Comics, Swamp Thing, they have a cast in the works. All we gotta do is wait and see.
The Purge series renewed for season 2.
The Purge television series finished its first season and on USA Network. It was no surprise to me whatsoever when outlets such as Variety.com announced that season 2 was renewed at USA Network. No surprise whatsoever. Here are some statistics behind season 1 of The Purge. It is currently USA Network's top drama. The average viewership was 1.2 million per episode, and that falls under the demographic of 18 to 49-year-olds, and 2.3 million total viewers per episode watching it live. So according to the statistics, 1.2 million watched it either via DVR and 2.3 watched it live. That's impressive statistics, considering that we have discussed in our previous podcast how film to TV adaptations don't work so well. So Stacy, have you seen the series yet? Please say you have. Please say you have.
No, I haven't.
Oh,
Sorry.
What?
It's on my watch list though.
Your watch list is getting too long here. We're gonna have to do something about that. But I stated before The Purge began on USA, not begin for real, but on USA, I said that it has success, it has potential because there are no characters. Each story for The Purge has different characters, so you could do anything you want with the storyline, and it just centers itself. It makes itself. The story just writes itself. That's the proper expression there. And season 1 had so many components going on. They had A-list actors there, familiar faces, and the story of The Purge, of course, we all know. Purge night, blah blah blah. So Stacy, you're gonna be watching season 1. You gotta catch up because season 2, they're gonna probably release it next year.
I do have to catch up. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like I get that with my subscription with Hulu. I have to upgrade to live TV.
You see, and there you go. We were just talking about streaming services. I get that's the downfall of not having live TV.
Well, we still have cable, so I don't know if it comes on cable, but I don't really watch cable. But yeah, like Hulu has all these different subscription services, but do you know how much it costs? Like right now, I pay $8 a month for just a regular Hulu. With live TV, I think they want like $40 a month.
Yeah, but depending on the packages that you get. But I'm certain that you would have the USA Network in your package. Yeah, I
do believe so. I think live TV comes, with a few premium channels. They got some premium channels that you have to purchase separately, and they got some things included with live TV.
Right. And news of the second season of The Purge just came immediately right after the last episode for season 1 aired on USA Network. And here is a comment here, a quote. James DeMonaco has done it again. The propulsive and compelling story he crafted for season 1 of The Purge truly resonated with audiences in a significant way. That was from Jason Blum over at Blumhouse Television and Universal Cable Productions. Yeah, I think The Purge is a great idea that everybody could really get into. What's more scarier than zombies? I think it's homicidal people who want revenge on you on 12 hours of the night, and you don't know who's after you. It could be your neighbor, it could be your friend, a jealous boyfriend or girlfriend. There's so many killers out there.
Yes, that's the good thing with this concept, as I keep saying. It's a concept that can be taken down countless paths. So this is one series that really should go on for seasons.
Yeah, I don't think this idea is going to lose steam at all. And as I said, in comparison to The Exorcist, where Fox had the TV series, and then you had Minority Report, and you had what was that? The Psycho TV series. There's only so much content that you could just expand on without getting boring. But with The Purge, you could just go all out in any direction.
Yeah, and the problem with the aforementioned series, I think it's because they pretty much are trying to expand from a feature film. Like, take for instance, the Scream series. Well, they took the movies, Scream, and tried to extend it into a series, and it lasted maybe 2 seasons. If
Right.
I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And I think it's going to be discontinued.
Right. And what
That's the thing. You can't really. Go ahead.
What happened there is there were too many of them. You had Scream, then you had Scream Queens, then you had Slasher. There was too many TV shows with the same concept, and they were clashing, and they all failed.
And I think out of all of them, the one that I would have loved to see continue on is Slasher.
Right, which is on Netflix. Season 2 is on Netflix. And maybe they'll continue season 3. But with The Purge, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. If one thing I would change, and I know they can't because it's on USA, perhaps they could get away with it. Just more violence, more gore, some crazy kills, decapitations or something like that. Take it to the next level.
When it comes to The Purge, they should get creative. I
Right?
mean, when you think of creativity in those, you think of like the Saw films. Like, that's one of the good things about the Saw films. They kept the kills creative. Like, there was always some creative trap.
Right. But I think what happened with the Saw films is the graphics, the practical effects became its downfall. So everyone was expecting those creative kills, and the storyline kind of went downhill. Part 1, Part 2, maybe Part 3 were good, and then everything was like, okay, here we go again, the same shit. But with The Purge Season 1, the TV series, it was more drama. And I like that too. I like the good character arc. But also toss in some violence, like, okay, so this person's getting killed, boom, head explosion or something that the audience will be like, whoa, I didn't see that coming.
Yes, I do believe for every episode there should be at least one main event to keep it going on and keep the audience tuned.
Mm-hmm. And I have to finish watching the rest of these season for The Purge, but there were some characters there that I said to myself, oh, get rid of them. Oh my gosh, they were so annoying to the point that I wanted them to really have a gory death. And it was bad writing on those characters. Truly bad writing. How could they make some idiotic decisions is beyond me.
Oh, yeah, that is one of my pet peeves in movies and shows. Just those idiotic moments where you're like, are you serious? Are you serious right now?
Right?
Like, no.
Don't do it. Don't go in there. Don't go out during the purge if you don't have a weapon or you don't know how to defend yourself. No, don't do it. But huge applause. Closing out the segment, huge applause for the level of diversity that James DeMonaco, Jason Blum put into this series, the Purge series. You had diversity. You had leads, Latino American leads, African American also were leading the pack. If they could continue doing that, applause to them. That's what we really need in the horror genre.
Bloody Ballet director, writer, Brad Mullen.
How can I explain what I can't even comprehend? To dream about someone I've never met, never seen, over and over, like a movie playing in my head on constant repeat. Who is she? What is she?
Kicking off our trio of exclusive interviews covering the newly released psychological horror thriller Bloody Ballet, also known as Fantasma, is director, co-writer Brett Mullen. The synopsis for Bloody Ballet reads as follows. When a beautiful ballerina dancer, Adriana Mina, lands the lead role in the upcoming Nutcracker performance, she's forced to face her demons as jealousy and tension begin to provoke the supernatural. Director Brett Mullen, according to IMDb, Brett Mullen has 12 cinematography credits with films such as Bombshell Bloodbath, Hatchet County, Belladonna, and his latest Bloody Ballet. He also has 6 producer credits as well as editing credits, and according to IMDb, Bloody Ballet is second feature, with Bombshell Bloodbath being the first, which released in 2014. Without further ado, here is my interview with director, writer, cinematographer Brett Mullen, which we'll be discussing Fantasma, that recently had a name changed to Bloody Ballet for distribution in the United States, as well as his career and other insights of filmmaking. Okay, we're officially on. Once again, Mr. Mullen, thank you for your time for this interview and discussing your upcoming film, Bloody Ballet, aka Fantasma. It had a title change, I see, from IMDb.
It did, yeah. It started out actually called The Malevolent. It was based on the beings that are in the movie and it had a title change to Fantasma because there was another movie that had been in Cannes that had the Malevolent title. So we changed it to Fantasma, and then when it picked up distribution, they had said, someone suggested at Hulu that maybe it would be better with an alternative title, and they picked Bloody Ballet, and so that's what they're rolling with in the U.S., but I think they're going Fantasma International for me.
Okay. This is not the first. I see this all the time, especially with the indie films. The title of the film always changes. And in my opinion, the original title seems better. It fits the poster art.
I know. Yeah, I was. I'm fine with whatever they need to do to make sales, but I had certainly thought that the original illustration that Graham Humphreys did, he's an amazing illustrator. He's done a lot of big stuff, and he had designed the original Fantasma poster. So I think with the illustration and the old title Fantasma, that really represented the movie in a whole of what I was going for.
Right. And a little bit about yourself. I do like to kick off the interview with the origin story for the interviewees, a little bit about your career, your film journey leading up to your latest film.
Yeah, I started out probably like a lot of artists. I made backyard films with my father's VHS camera, and I think my first movie that I made was actually with a bunch of action figures at like 15, and it was called Dear of the Living Dead, inspired by George Romero and all that kind of movies I was growing up loving. And I went to school for computer animation, so I was had the Pixar thought route, and it kind of changed because I ended up getting hired to film stuff for like Delta Airlines and other things that had to do with camera, and it just kind of fell in my lap through connections and buddies. I met some people that do insane, gore effects and stuff like that, and I'm like, yeah, let's make a movie. So in 2014, we shot Bombshell Bloodbath, which is it's a roller coaster of a movie, but it follows kind of a Reanimator meets maybe City of the Living Dead or something. It's wild. It has the main character. She kind of gets infected, but it takes the journey of her, decay throughout the whole film. So it's not like an instant zombie, but kind of the bloodbath of, the bombshell. So we did that, and it turned out, really well. And we had an Amazon Prime release, and that kind of rolled me into doing my next film, Fantasma. So as far as directing, I've got Bombshell Bloodbath, Fantasma, and then Belladonna, which is my new film. It's kind of a modern day Medusa short film. So that one's doing festivals and whatnot right now.
Oh, quite impressive. And I could definitely relate to your youth utilizing the equipment you have at hand and an action figures. I did that myself with tape decks, and I got to tell you, I got in trouble so many times for breaking the tape decks because I like tinkering with audio.
Right. Yeah. I saw you're an audio engineer. That's awesome. Or a recordist, right?
Yes. And went to school right here at college and everything. That was my forte. So I was listening to your origin story, like, wow, it seems common when you're young. You just like to tinker things, and you grow up, and that's what you want to do.
Yeah. I mean, I was in bands, so, I'd make our music videos, and I was a skateboarder. So I'd make like skate films for everybody, and I never really had thought, to go the movie route. It just kind of worked itself out that way. But I remember getting in some trouble when I was doing the action figure movie because I was shooting it in the garage and I had built all the, cardboard sets myself. And at the end of the movie, just basically everything turns into a giant fireball. So I soaked it in gasoline and threw a match on it. And my dad's like, "No, you can't be setting fires in the garage, son." So yeah, it was a hoot though. It's really funny.
Oh, talk about practical effects. You had it right there.
Yeah, I mean, since everything's, I really believe in camera effects. It just has this beauty to it, seen and naturally. So all my films have practical effects. There may be like a little digital blood added in, but, always do full silicone or full whatever we need to do and, explode it or rip it apart or, all that beautiful stuff.
And that leads us to Bloody Ballet. One of the things when I seen the film for the first time is the light painting, the cinematography, outstanding in replicating a bygone era of the 70s, and it also ties in with the soundtrack. It just really has that giallo effect to it.
Yeah, I love giallo films. Definitely inspired by, Bava and Argento and some of the masters of color. And I think the way we did it in this movie, because, I'm sensitive to the fact that, it is quite a bit like Suspiria on a plate, let's say, because it has its ballet aspects. So I tried to do a lot of things that were different, so it didn't seem like it was, a remake of Suspiria. And actually, when I started making this film, it was so long ago that it was before they were doing the remake, or at least that I had heard that they were doing a remake. So I thought I was giving a little love letter to the fans who love Suspiria. And kind of its colors, the way I use the colors in the movie is it's a representation of the lead character, her subconscious coming out into reality. So it doesn't necessarily always have the colors, but when her inner, let's say her inner fears are coming out of her in the world around her, that's when we start seeing, the really deep reds and the blues coming in to play. So I kind of like that because it, as soon as that starts playing, then, the soundtrack starts getting brooding. And I really feel like that's something I've loved seeing over the last few years is the kind of renaissance of the early 70s, late 80s, let's say, European style films, especially Italian, coming back and people really using strong elements of music and lighting because they kind of got skipped, for a while. So that's nice to see.
Yeah, I do see a resurgence of filmmakers going back to, let's say, the roots of visual storytelling, whether it be light painting, the use of cinematography in a certain way, to pay homage to masters of horror. And also good that you had made note of the colors and how it associates with the protagonist. I did catch up on that and other subtleties that you had infused, such as the attire that she wore. It was black and red, which symbolizes duality.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Another thing I love about the film is going into watching Bloody Ballet and Fantasma, I think the audience should expect it's not your cookie cutter, storyline that sometimes you see, but I really made an effort, and I did in my last film as well, Bombshell Bloodbath, but there was a sense of weirdness or a sense of randomness that I really enjoyed in the films I grew up watching. And so both of those films are a complete ride, it's hard to kind of guess what's coming next. And that's what I kind of liked about, Fulci films. Like if you take The Beyond, let's say, that's quite the amazing experience to watch for, people. So I try to I try to keep that in mind and not make it basically like, one big jump scare movie, but to really put the art back into it. That's why I'm such a fan of music and the visuals and stuff like that. Is I'm okay with somebody walking down a hallway for 60 seconds in the movie if there's a really good soundtrack and really interesting aspects and location and everything else. Use it and then build the anticipation for what's going to happen, not just necessarily, skimping on it to get a big scare. So there's big payoffs in the movie, and there's some beautiful lead ups to those big pays.
Yeah, precisely. I do agree with that. And with Bloody Ballet, I do see that it's really has a heavy effect with the psychological. And films such as this, they are very few and far between, but films such as this focus on the entertainment industry. And for those listening, it may lean towards the MK Ultra theory of how performers have to succumb to certain mind altering states in order to become famous.
Yeah, and it's really interesting you mentioned that, because I that X movie that I've got it about 35% written, but it's very focused on that exact thing. It's called Red Carpet Reveal. And basically, it goes into the acting aspect and stuff like that. So that is definitely, that's something that inspired me while doing this movie, where it wasn't as complete the focus. It was the power of the subconscious mind that we all have, and in this particular story, focusing on those fears and not working through your own shit, let's say, then you can bring some of that up in your life, and it's in an extreme measure of so, but I think messing with all the dream states and everything else is really, really fun to do with a movie, and my hopes is that it can make people think, so it's a very interesting storyline.
Quite indeed. The creature aspect that you had added to the film is also a highlight. How did all those scenes come together? It seems so surreal. How did those scenes all come together during filming?
As far as the all the images from the trailer, or just the kind of the mass killer?
The mass killer, and also we have the creatures in which the protagonist she has in her dreams.
Yeah, so basically all those different creatures are her inner demons. So the malevolent, which are kind of all the zombie appearing creatures, are an image of, basically, let's say, our inner demons. And then as the film progresses and that is coming out of her, we start seeing, the death of her, which you see in the tub. And then you see, she's revisiting her childhood. So in the film, there's some shots of a younger version of her. And she's having flashbacks to some of the traumas that she had as a child. Her parents were murdered, and there's some stuff that she never really cleared out of her system. So she starts seeing the devil. She starts seeing, dead versions of herself. She starts seeing, her classmates as dead. And the only thing she really has to keep herself grounded is her love of ballet. So she has a good connection with Dr. Carelli, which is played by Debbie Rochon, and she suggests this experimental drug to maybe help calm some of her visions. And basically, whatever that drug is, that's an experimental drug. Obviously, America has a big problem with prescribed drugs and stuff like that. That sends her off the wagon, and from there she's losing her shit for the rest of the movie. So that's pretty much where those images play in.
And that also ties into what I mentioned earlier, the trauma-based programming. It's really ingrained. That was my interpretation. Of course, other viewers would have a different take on it. But when I saw the film for the first time, that was my interpretation. Really scary and eloquently put visuals with the psychology, the slasher, and the supernatural all mixed into one.
Thank you.
And also, reading from IMDb, you served as co-writer for this film. Crafting this script, what were some of the points that you really felt sympathetic with this protagonist?
The script kind of had a turn in the halfway point, and it was kind of a discovery throughout the process. So some of those things had been added in. For instance, like the devil scene was originally supposed to be just going off a really old black and white film called The Red Spectre. So that's why that's on TV, and she kind of falls asleep watching it, and then it goes into the devil. But the progression of the protagonist for me was just that exact thing we just talked about. It was inspiration of trying to draw a story together of if you have something tragic that happens in your life, how do you work through it? And if you don't work through it, maybe there's some sort of patterns or other things that you live through the rest of your life because you don't clean up those things. So that's kind of what the story is in a horror tale, and that's what I try to paint throughout the whole movie as a message.
And that's an area in horror cinema that I feel that it's somewhat lax or lacking, is the character development. Sure, the gore and the visuals are highlights to any film, but if you have a strong character that has a story arc from Act 1 to Act 3, I feel that's more stronger presentation for the audiences.
Yeah, and one thing I really enjoy about the movie as well is the play on the the sub character. From the trailer, you'll see that there's a detective. He's kind of reminds you of like an Ian McCullough or something like that, and he kind of sidelines the movie, and you don't really know what his deal is or why he's kind of he's seeing ghosts, and he's kind of seeing he's discovering Adriana, the main actress, and they kind of click together at the end in a powerful way. I don't know whether that's something to talk about without kind of throwing out a Hail Mary there, but they definitely, that's like an interesting way that the movie carves itself together as well.
Right. The subplot for any film has to be just as strong as the plot itself, and everything just ties into the third act. That's like a magician pulling a grand finale. You have to craft it in a certain way that is so subtle, and everything just comes together.
Exactly. Yeah.
Watching the film, it seems the price tag on this film is big budget. How did it for real, from the lighting, and I see you have vintage cars, the locations from filming. One area looks like an abandoned jail cell, for example. How did the whole process of filming come together? Was it this restrictions with the money, time?
Yeah, I mean, I can just go ahead and say this because it's it's already gotten this distro and stuff, but this movie was funded a majority out of my pocket as a project I really wanted to do. So it has an extremely low budget, and we were able to pull off what we could because I already had most of the assets. I had to wear a lot of hats during the movie, and because of budget, crew was changing all the time, and that was kind of difficult, but locations are super important for me. So what I had done is I went to the Virginia Film Office and we got together some locations for it. I needed a theater, and I did basically just a drop-in to this Bird Theater in Richmond, and the owner was just there kind of cleaning up, and I told him what I wanted to do, and he gave me, the rental rate of what it would be to premiere like a screening there, or, usually what he does for events. And we tried to shoot as much I think we did 5 days there, shoot as much in the 5 days as we could. And then from there, I'd stopped at this historic pump house and, made it the assumption that in the film, that's the basement of this area. And there was an old jailhouse there. And so it just utilized all those interesting places, carved the ghost story into it. The actors were really reasonable with me on rates, and I was really thankful to be able to have the budget to say, let's get Caroline Williams or Debbie Rochon or Brett Wagner in it. They definitely upped the value of the movie, and we were able to come up with a good game plan to have them filmed and be able to do. Debbie was in 2 days, Caroline Williams was in 2 days, and Brett was in 1 day. So, we just kind of had them in and out, though they're in a lot of scenes. We were just kind of crunched to say, maybe we only have 3 takes per scene. So it was really important to have, the lighting scheme and every single movement to a T before we had them show up on set. So it was a struggle budget-wise. It really was. And but we pulled it off beautifully for, what we had. So the key is that, show this one, get this one out, and then hopefully the next budget will allow a little bit more time and, that's what everybody wants, is more budget and more time, but
right. Wow, quite fascinating. I was so curious when I was watching the film, because I said to myself, was this crowdfunded? Was it investors involved? Because everything seems so high end, so a high budget. Coming out of the pocket, that's a huge risk, and I do appreciate, tip my hat off to you, because taking a risk like that to express your passion, it's quite amazing feat.
It is, and one of the lucky things I had going for me is I shoot commercials and such for a living. That's my main job. So luckily I had pretty much all the production equipment. I have a production company, so I was able to, we could skip rentals and other things that usually, would be a big weigh on the film. So that did help as well. But yeah, it was one of those deals where, it took a year and a half to film the movie. And the reason being is I would have to do enough work 1 week to afford to shoot the next week. So that's kind of how it was made.
That is quite interesting. I might as well just jump the gun and infuse the inspirational portion of the interview. You're classified as an entrepreneur. You run your own business, and that channels into your craft. What advice would you relay to someone who is just starting as an entrepreneur, getting money, working for themselves to try to create a film or a music project or so on and so forth?
Yeah, I mean, it starts with having to have a passion for the craft. So if, let's say, if your passion is fame or your passion is attention, then, you're in the wrong spot. It's really got to come from the heart, because that's where you'll make the best decisions. So that first and foremost. And second, it's a lot about the networking, which, comes with the passion of it. So I'd say go to film festivals, watch other people's films, subscribe to magazines, surround yourself with, the love of whatever that is, whether it's horror films or music or whatever it is. And, really stay positive and every day wake up thinking of the mindset that, envision yourself doing it. Get out there and do it. The most important thing is if you can't, afford to do it yourself, maybe you want to hop on a set, start PAing and get involved and meet people that are making movies, or maybe you want to buy, an inexpensive camera. I mean, you can still like create, ideas. Scripts are most important, the idea, and then from there, in time, you'll get budget and other things. But I would say just to, if you love it, then live it, keep at it, stay positive, network.
Thank you. Those are great words to live by. And the thing also for aspiring filmmakers who want to start creating craft is they get so focused on getting Red or any other high-end cameras, DSLRs, or there's other cameras on the market that are lesser price and does the same or close to the same thing, just expressing your vision.
Yeah, the most important thing with the camera, I mean, hey, if you got budget to shoot on RE and Red and stuff like that, go for it. We were able to do that with Fantasma. So, the gear is great, but you have to understand with bigger equipment comes, you have to add more big equipment to make it work. So where, if you're using a DSLR and you're shooting something, you can get a jib shot and you can have a cheap, Kessler crane, get some sort of shot, it works. If you've got a Red and you've got it built out all the way, then you're looking into adding ND in your camera, anything else you got to make the Red work because it's basically a computer. And then you've got to get a bigger high-end, jib. Our jib shots in it, we had a 30-foot Jimmy jib, stuff like that. But, with those things, the operators and the cost of those things are more. So, yeah, it's great to shoot on the high-end cameras, but you have to realize, same thing with film. You can't just say, I'm going to shoot film. You have to realize that a film camera is very, very heavy. And you got the cost of film, you have the dollies and all the other systems to make it work are much larger and much more expensive. So, how do you divide the money in an intelligent way? Do you want to skimp on story? Because for me, if you do have a really low budget and you're inspiring to make, your first film, then maybe you don't get the Red and maybe you spend that $3,000 that was going to be your whatever day rental. It'd be way more than that for a feature length.
Right.
But and get a really amazing location, something that makes the story beautiful, or maybe invest in some big lights to actually light up your scene correctly, or get better crafty for your crew. Because if you're paying them very little, then at least you want to feed them with a really nice meal, or show your actors and actresses hey, here's something special for you for, doing this movie. So there's a lot of places that, money can go besides necessarily a camera. But
right. That is so true. And especially if you're living in a large metropolis such as Los Angeles and New York, there are many resources where the cast can be obtained at a low to zero cost. There's always hungry actors who want to build up their resume, and if the story resonates with them, they are more than willing to help.
Exactly. Yeah. And, going back to inspiring, our filmmakers that, want to start doing their first films, I think, working on other sets, sometimes you meet people. I know there were some sets I just came out for a day and did some camera, and it was really to kind of, help my local filmmakers out. And, I was like, hey, I'll bring my camera, I'll do this. But for instance, I met Katie Carpenter, who's a part of that film, by shooting one day on a film that she was on. And she introduced me to Kendra, who ended up being the lead in the movie. So I don't know if that ever would have fell together if it wasn't, for doing those little things. So networking, is key in the industry, and it's key in most industries.
Yes, and for the horror industry, firsthand, there's so many filmmakers, producers across the board, content creators, let's say, putting them all in one umbrella. Everyone is so open to help each other. There is not the typical how would you say a competition. No, everybody is just open. If you need help, just ask, and like you have mentioned many times, it's all about networking.
Exactly. That's how I see it.
For Bloody Ballet, another question for the practical effects. There were several in there. One scene that really stuck out to me that I truly adore was the bathtub scene with the woman coming out from the bathtub. That was sexy and terrifying at the same time. Kudos to that one.
Yeah, that one. That's a full body cast. It started with Kendra. So Kendra came in, and I forget how long it took. It took a while. They did a whole mold of her body. And then from there, they created the silicone prosthetics over it. We did all, really nice contacts for the film.
Right.
I'm trying to think of where that came from. But anyways, she was freaking awesome. And what we did is we put it on a motorized dolly. Because we wanted to have them both in the same scene, but we wanted to, the character, Adriana, and her dead self in the tub together. So the way we did that, put on a motorized dolly, and we did one run with Kendra on the one side, and then one with her and the prosthetics on the other one. We locked off set. We're like, no one's in the bathroom, no one's kicking the dolly, and we just ran the same program on the dolly twice to give it a move and have them both in the same tub, and it looked great in the film.
Yeah. Oh, that's one of my favorites. But there were several practical effects wise. The gore factor in this film is stellar, and I do appreciate filmmakers really emphasizing practical effects, because in a digital age, everything is going CGI, which is cool in its own right to do touch-ups, but it's just that the hands-on techniques of creating gore, or the contact lenses, or something that really emphasizes horror. Yeah,
that, and I think it brings an excitement to the set when you're about to dive into like a 5-hour intense practical effects scene. There's the cost of doing it right, because sometimes you only have one shot at it.
Right.
But after you nail it and you watch that back, everyone's amped. I mean, that like sets the tone. So the very first 3 days of filming, we did a death scene each day, and they were like some of the biggest ones. And having those all cut together and watching those as, investing in the rest of the movie, I'm thinking to myself, we just got to get to these points in the movie. It's rad already. So, I mean, it's exciting. And then to be able to do it on set, I think that the actors can really get into it if they're seeing it and not just pretending that maybe, what it will look like when it's done. So I know, for instance, with The Masked Killer, we didn't allow them to see the killer until the shooting of the movie. So some of the times when the characters turn around and they see, the masked killer or whatever, it's the first time that they even know what the killer looks like. So we got some authentic screams and scares out of that.
That's a great idea. That's not the first time I've heard that filmmakers keeping the killer secret until the right moment. That's a great idea. And also, I have to comment.
Not only are they going to see the killer, but they're going to get slashed up. Like they already know. They got a razor blade in the air when they see the first time. They're like, well, yikes.
Right, precisely. And another key scene that I have to applaud is I would call it the chest bursting scene in the bathroom. Wow, that must have been intense to shoot from so many angles. You provide the gore factor in there is, and not it looks so real because we could see the internal organs of the character.
Yeah. So that credit goes to Joe Harp, who is he was the supervisor for all the effects, and he did a majority of them. The other two were Matt Patterson and Amber Michael. But they man, the effects were cool, and with the organs and stuff, like Joe Harp, he did Bombshell Bloodbath as well. But when he gets into effect, let's say, and like he knew he had to be doing organs, I came over to visit the guy about how we were going to pull this off, and all over his walls and tables are like pictures of the organs and everything else. He's like, this intestine will go like this and this will go here, and I'm like, oh wow, okay. I remember in Bombshell Bloodbath he was like, well, really, if these zombies were eating the intestines, there would most likely be crap, in the intestines, because it wouldn't just be blood, it'd be brown too. I was like, well, that's disgusting, but sure, we can do it. So all the zombies are munching on all the intestines, and there's peanut butter and jelly filled inside the intestines. So as it's squeezing out, it looks disgusting. And Shane Terry, who played one of the main zombies, he was actually the killer in Fantasma Bloody Ballet as well. He said he couldn't eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for like a year. I don't even know if he's eaten peanut butter and jelly sandwich since, because it just ruined it for him, just the stink of peanut butter and jelly for like 3 hours of munching on those intestines. But yeah, the chest scene was one of the most difficult ones to shoot. Just trying to get, the body double in there. And we ended up shooting it over 2 days. So there was a lapse in days. So getting the time of day correct for, half of it was a struggle. But it paid off, and it's fun. I mean, it's kind of like a thumbs up to maybe like a Freddy Krueger moment or something,
Right.
Bursting out of bodies. But yeah, that was pretty fun to do. It was probably the hardest effect, I'd say.
Yeah, I would assume it would be challenging, and if the payoff is great, definitely go for it. That's part of risk taking in filmmaking. To close out the interview, please feel free to infuse any other projects that you have coming up, or anything you care to add with Bloody Ballet, and also your social networking handles.
Yeah. Well, first I'll start out with my handles. My Facebook is facebook.com Director Brett Mullen, and Director Brett Mullen is also my Instagram. I don't have a Twitter or a tweet, but those are my two handles for social media. And my upcoming movies right now, what I'm working on is trying to obtain the rights to do a remake of Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, which is a Bob Clark film. And fingers crossed on that. I've got some cool ideas for it that I won't share now, but I've dug into it. So, hopefully that becomes a reality, and I have some ideas on how to remake that film and really keep it bizarre and, from the atmosphere of that film with the sound effects and everything else to the really dark shadows to the unique and quirky characters. I would really love the opportunity to take a stab at that movie, because I think I could do something that when you watch it, you say, well, that's why I love Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things the first time. So that would be my goal. I've got Red Carpet Reveal that I'm writing, and I've got another one, but it's too far off to even bother explaining. But as far as Bloody Ballet, Fantasma, it comes to video on demand the 13th of November, which is this following Tuesday, and it'll be released on Blu-ray and DVD December 4th. And yeah, I mean, I think just check your local Redbox or whatnot to try to watch it early. And anybody that falls in love with the movie, please add me on social media, stay in touch. And I really love fans and building a base with them. So feel free to reach out and ask me any questions of things coming up. And let's just keep creating inspiring horror together.
Absolutely. And thank you for that last comment. I really do appreciate when filmmakers, actors, anyone in the performing arts who takes the time to connect with the audience through social media, because that's a great outlet that can grow a relationship between the audience and the person crafting what the audience wants.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's what it's really about. I mean, I was, the only reason I'm doing horror films today is because I was inspired so much by certain directors, throughout my childhood and, into today. I still watch horror movies every week. So, I want the same for other people. If I can inspire, how many people? I mean, it's all an honor to me. And that's what it's all about is inspiring each other and people to, continue to put out, new interesting movies. And yeah, so I'm available.
Great. Thank you. Thank you once again, Mr. Mullen, for your time, for this interview, for all this rich information. Congratulations on the release the upcoming release for Bloody Ballet, aka Fantasma. All the best to your career.
All right. Cheers. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Segment 3. Exclusive interview. Bloody Ballet. Actress Katie Carpenter.
Our second exclusive interview features actress Katie Carpenter. Carpenter portrays the role of Berna in Bloody Ballet, also known as Fantasma. Katie Carpenter also stars in Netflix Haunting of Hill House, and she also starred in Acrimony, Tyler Perry's Acrimony, as well as her very own web series titled Mail to Order. In our interview, we'll be discussing her various projects as well as her latest role in the psychological horror thriller Bloody Ballet, also known as Fantasma. Without further ado, here is my interview with actress, producer Katie Carpenter. I do like to kick off the interview with the origin story for the interviewees, a little bit about your career, your film journey.
Yeah, so I've been acting since I was about 8 years old. I did my first play in elementary school, and I was kind of hooked after that. And I did a lot of theater growing up. I got a scholarship to a liberal arts college, Catawba College in North Carolina, for theater and performance. And I graduated actually with a musical theater degree, and then moved to Atlanta about a year later, where I've been ever since. And I kind of moved to film and TV because I really respond to just that kind of acting. And yeah, I've been in Atlanta and working and been a part of a lot of really cool projects.
Yes, and I have to say, one of the films that you have starred in was 3, which we had covered last year and also a couple of months back. The Haunting of Hill House. Congratulations on that one. And that leads us. Yeah, that was a great. I binged watched this in over 2 days. My wife said, "Oh, you still watching that?" Couldn't get it off the TV. That was a great story.
Oh, cool. I'm so happy to be a part of that. Yeah, it's been incredible. Everyone has really responded well to it. It really grabs the audience attention because one thing for horror cinema that is, in my opinion, lacking is the character arc
from Act 1 and Act 3. And for instance, The Haunting of Hill House, you have a long chapters and each individual is given a spotlight.
Right. I know they really gave attention to the characters, and you saw things from their perspective, which, and just the level of grief and how everyone copes was just, I think, really unique to what a lot of other people have done in the past.
And it also blends the psychological and the supernatural element, and that's another area where I see is growing in horror cinema, because the audience wouldn't know, is it a mental condition or is it something paranormal?
Right. Yeah, are they crazy, or is this happening, or is it both, which is even wilder to believe. Yeah.
I just enjoy stories like that. But that leads me to your latest project, and the basis for our interview is Fantasma, which underwent a name change. Now it's titled Bloody Ballet. And in that one also, the film has the psychological as well as, let's say, supernatural or slasher undertones.
Right. Yeah, it was very similar along those lines. With it, again, is someone going through this process in their own head, or is it actually happening outside in the real world?
A fascinating story. And the visuals, we just finished watching it a couple of days ago. Amazing visuals. But you portrayed a character, Berna. Tell us a little bit about her.
Yeah, it was a character that I was drawn to. It's actually a funny story. I knew Brett, and I'd worked with him on a movie in the past, and I loved his work, and I knew that he had such an amazing eye, and anything he shot would look beautiful. So I really wanted to be a part of this movie, and at first they weren't sure that I would be a fit for this role, but I knew I would be. And Kendra and I, the lead, so she played Adriana, had a short that we shot a while back, and we were like best friends. So it was a very similar dynamic to what is in Fantasma or Bloody Ballet. And so I sent a clip from us acting together, because I don't know what it is about me and Kendra, but we have such a connection on camera. Like, she's one of the few people that I feel we just respond so well to each other, and we're just in like a flow, just like very trusting. And so I knew that if they were to cast both of us, they would be doing, making a smart decision. So I sent that clip to Brett, and he was just like, okay, all right. Yeah. Like, this can work. You two can work. So that's how I kind of got involved in the project. I just, had to convince him a little bit. But Berna was a character, again, that I was drawn to because she was spunky. She was outspoken. She was such a loyal friend, and she cared deeply about Adriana. And I think, I was really drawn to the truthfulness and the how genuine she was.
Right. And we spoke with Brett a couple of days back as well as part of our coverage for this film. And one of the things that I pointed out to him was the visuals, well, not only the visuals, but the interpretation of the film and how it incorporates that mind control, MK Ultra type conspiracy theory into the film, especially with the psychological aspect. What was your interpretation when you read the script?
Yeah, I thought it was, again, a really unique script, and I liked that it followed, someone from a young age to how it affects their adult life, because being a child and going through any sort of traumatic experience can have such a profound effect on your adult life. And then I liked that, the elements that were kind of twisted in there, the psychological and the horror, because I myself, even though I've been involved in several horror projects, I'm not usually drawn to horror on the surface. But I'm drawn to this type of horror because it's got so much else going on. And again, yeah, the way that Brett made it look was fantastic. And again, just it gives you more than just a horror movie. I mean, it gives you something beautiful to look at. It gives you, those psychological elements to kind of work through. And it gives you, some actual truthful characters, I think, instead of just stereotypes.
Right. That's I always emphasize that especially for women, is the development of women's contribution to horror is evolved over the years.
Right, which I'm so happy for, because it would be so hard for me to just play somebody who was just that typical horror scream queen, and didn't have any sort of motivation or drive or anything that really made sense. I mean, that would be very challenging for me to do as an actor. Right, and that also leads, because you have worked with Lou Simon twice before. You worked with her in All Girls Weekend and then on 3. Sure, picking up points, especially from a woman creating the film behind the camera as opposed to acting alongside a female actress. There were some pointers of how to strengthen the character, let's say, for example. Right. Yeah. She definitely makes sure that her characters are well-rounded and, fully formed characters. And actually in Fantasma, it was, written by guys, and I think they did a great job. But at times, some of the dialogue, it just didn't feel natural, and it didn't feel like what, a friend would say in a situation. So in a lot of the scenes that I was in, especially with Kendra, we actually did a lot of improvisation. So the scene in the Italian restaurant, that was a lot of improv. And then the scene outside of the mannequin shop, that was also some improv to, again, just strengthen our characters and the bond. And they really liked it, or we would have changed it, but they really, responded to it too. Okay. So that explains the connection of these characters on screen. That's one thing I always look out for in horror films, or any type of film, is that on-screen chemistry. And you could tell when it's recited off the script, and you could tell also when it's coming from the heart. And if in Fantasma, Bloody Ballet, every aspect of the dialogue has that emotional content. Yeah. So Brett was great in allowing us to, express ourselves as the characters. And I think overall, he also just wanted what we wanted, which was characters that people would actually care about. Right. And once again, it all comes back to that story arc of the character, how the characters develop, how the character relates to an everyday life of a person and of the audience members sitting and watching this film. As an actress, do you find it to be much easier to do the improv to convey that emotional context of the character? It's not easy if you're not prepared. But if you've, figured out your path as this character, it's not too hard to line up how they would be in that situation. And then one part in the Italian restaurant, and I kind of brought it up because ballerinas, I felt like in the script that Brett originally gave us, there wasn't a lot of talk about ballerinas' appearance and like diet and weight. And I know, especially from someone who's danced in the past, that is like a huge concern for ballerinas, and it's always on their minds. And so that's why I kind of brought that into it, especially being somebody who's more on like the fitter, curvier side rather than the really slender side. I was just like, this person, like me playing this character in this situation, this is something that I would want to talk about, and this is something that would be on my mind and would also cause a lot of competition and jealousy between the girls, which I think would heighten a lot of things. And they, again, were like, okay, that's cool. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's the little nuances that when you're writing a script, you don't really think about it. When you have an outside perspective, like, oh, okay, yeah, that does make sense.
Right. Yeah.
Seeing this character that you portray in the film, Berna, what were some of the things that really you sympathized with when you had to analyze and portray this role?
I think I sympathize with the fact that Berna's a smart, intelligent, street savvy kind of character, but she was in such unfamiliar territory in dealing with her friend. She, is used to being capable in situations, but in this sort of scenario, she didn't know what to do. I mean, she was lost, and she knew she needed to support and help her friend, but she couldn't understand because Adriana couldn't tell her, couldn't communicate that. And so she was battling her own demons without pretty much any help. So to just kind of be in the situation where you're watching your friend suffer and know that you're not able to help her is just, I think, heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm. Very a great insight on that. And for the filming itself, what were some of the things that you really took out during the filming production? Some things that really caught your attention? I see there's so many practical effects, gore factor in the film. What was one thing that is really memorable for you?
Well, I don't want to give any spoilers, but getting prosthetics applied was such a process, and those guys were amazing. Joe and Matt are really talented at what they do, but just the process of putting that on and putting anything on is long. And there's so many layers and so many things that you had no idea to make one thing happen. So many elements. So that was like an insight for sure in seeing how they, applied things on me or on other actors. I think that was like a really cool thing. And the practical effects in this movie, I think are pretty sweet. So, that was a lot of fun to see.
Yeah, it's great to find that, to see firsthand the movie magic when they make something gory. I was just telling Mr. Mullen during our interview, 2 key scenes. One was which character emerges from the bathtub. I found that to be kind of creepy and sexy at the same time. That was well put together there.
Oh, I know. And that was a process. Yeah. And I was there to watch that scene being shot, which I was really happy for. I got some cool behind the scenes videos.
And another one, for example, the bathroom scene, not to give any spoilers, but it was the chest bursting scene. Wow, I haven't seen something that well put together in horror film for a long time.
That's awesome. We're so happy to hear it. Yeah. They the visuals, I think, are pretty stunning on this.
I see, according to your IMDb, and of course you had mentioned the horror genre, you have a cornucopia of film genres. There, of course, those that stand out are horror. Do you see yourself venturing more into this genre as opposed to, let's say, comedy, action, or drama?
It's a really good question. As an actor, you're ultimately a freelancer, until when you don't have a huge name, you kind of are at the mercy of who offers you a job. But I like to think that I don't say yes to everything. It really depends on the script. So the horror movies that I've been involved with, I responded well to the script and I thought they were well done. And so if there are other horror movies that have awesome scripts, I would absolutely jump on board. But I actually have a web series that we just have a couple more episodes to release. That's a comedy web series actually with Kendra called Made to Order. And we've had a ton of fun with that one too. So that's just like the opposite end of the spectrum. So it's a lot of fun in ways. I mean, the sets are very lighthearted and fly by the seat of your pants type of thing. So I'm really open to kind of, again, what work comes my way and what I feel a connection to. And mostly it's just good scripts and good characters.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. And especially for women's contribution to the genre, it has to be a certain level, not as a stereotype, as you had mentioned earlier in the interview.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't have a ton of interest in playing somebody who's just there in relation to a male character or just there to show nudity or whatever. I think that all those, the best characters are the ones that have a full history and they are fully emotionally, have a large range, and they're just, they're interesting, like an actual person. Because I don't meet a lot of stereotypes in real life. So that's the type of person that you want to bring to life on the screen, is somebody that is just very dynamic and interesting.
Mm-hmm. And nice that you had mentioned the web series Made to Order, because my next question was going to be about not waiting for the audition call back, which I know it's nerve-wracking in itself for any performer, any actor, actress, especially starting out. Utilizing the web to create your own content. I figured that's the best way to get your name out there, especially when someone is starting out.
It is, and it brings you so much understanding about how things are put together, because we actually produced our web series too. So we learned a lot, and it was actually really cool because our web series did bring me a role. Tyler Perry Studios casting assistants, Michael Gillespie and Morgan Landers, actually loved the show. This was like 2 years ago they watched it, and they showed it to the casting director at Tyler Perry, and her name's Raven Drummer, and I had never auditioned for her or for any of his projects in the past. And they had a movie, and they brought me into audition, and I booked the role after they saw my work on Made to Order. So it was a really cool thing, because not only was it fulfilling to create our own content, but to have people watch it and enjoy it, and then to have, kind of like a real world benefit to it was really satisfying.
Right, yeah, and I find that we're living in a great time right now that we have Facebook, Instagram now has a platform, YouTube, of course, and everything is in the hands of the performer now. You could be the director, producer, and the star of the show, and as you had mentioned, it could lead to bigger budget production.
Right. Yeah. It's so cool now. We have access to a lot of the internet resources we never had before. So I would definitely encourage all the artists out there who, might be frustrated to make their own content, because not only does it make you better as a performer to be more experienced, but it makes you have a better understanding of getting content out there and what maybe future producers and directors are looking for too. And I actually work, so my day job is actually in the film industry. I work as like a costume designer and stylist and costumer on set. So I get to watch people perform and directors direct on these big budget TV shows all the time, which is, again, another lesson. So I'm never not learning,
Right. Especially for this type of industry, you have to keep your mind open and always be on the set. And if you can, for those who are starting out, go on set, volunteer, and just watch the process. The process in itself is intensive.
Oh, it absolutely is. I've worked 4 15-hour days this week. I mean, it's a lot, but again, I feel so much more comfortable on a set than I ever have in the past, because I've been on it, and I'm a little more experienced than I was. And as an actor now, when I can go on to sets again, big, huge, multi-million-dollar sets, I'm going to feel that much more confident, because understand the process, and I understand, how things work a little bit more.
Okay, thank you for that. I usually infuse a inspirational question for you to relay, but you have already touched on that topic. So we'll jump into the final question, which is an open platform. Any projects that you have available that you can share? I know sometimes you can't. Those that you can, and also your social networking handles where people can find you online.
Yeah, so the big thing that we have going is Made to Order, which you can find on YouTube and Facebook. It's NAID to Order because it's about maids. And we have a couple more episodes coming out in our second season. And then my social handles are on Instagram and Twitter and even Facebook. I think it's all the Katie Carp.
Oh, great. I'm sure that was an easy social media handle because I'm aware that actors have the dilemma. Their name sometimes is common and they have to put the 1 or the 2. Yours is easy to find.
Yeah, it is. Well, there's a million Kate Carpenters in the world, so I just shortened my name and it worked out.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much for this interview, for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Great. And as I mentioned at the top of the interview, a fantastic portrait in The Haunting of Hill House, and of course your upcoming film Fantasma, aka Bloody Ballet. Love them both. Great.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very grateful to be a part of these projects.
And looking forward to your upcoming project. I will even check out Made to Order. Comedy.
You better watch it. Yeah, start at the beginning, man.
Comedy is
Season 1, episode 1.
Oh, of course, right. Comedy is an area that I rarely delve into, but yeah, I'll check this one out. It's on YouTube, correct?
It's funny. It's funny. And they're short episodes, so they're like, well, the first season, they were like a little bit longer, but they're not more than like 6 or 7 minutes. They're funny, they're flirty. You'll enjoy them.
Oh, short. That also fits into our instant gratification era that people want to consume fast content. 6-minute clip, that's great.
Exactly. Yeah, we made them even shorter second season too, just to keep it around 3 minutes. But yeah, people have said really nice things. So and me and Kendra are in it. So if you like Bloody Ballet, then you'll probably like Made to Order.
Great. Have a great rest of the year and best of luck to you. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Bye.
Segment 3. Exclusive interview. Bloody Ballet. Fantasma. Actress. Kendra Carelli.
Concluding our exclusive interview segment, focusing on Bloody Ballet, also known as Fantasma, we have a conversational interview with actress Kendra Carelli. Kendra Carelli stars in the lead, portraying the role as Adriana Mina. According to IMDb, Kendra Carelli features 17 acting credits with films such as Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 as a robot courtesan, Hunger, What Lies in the Night, and her latest film, Bloody Ballet. Kendra Carelli also produces and stars in a web series titled Made to Order. In our interview, we'll be discussing her career and also her latest role in the psychological horror thriller Bloody Ballet. Without further ado, here's my interview with actress, producer, Kendra Carelli. And to start off the interview, please let's delve on the origin story, a little bit about yourself, your career, humble beginnings leading up to your latest projects.
That's a loaded question. Okay. Career, I'll give you the Spark Notes version. I did theater when I was younger, and then I kind of fell out of theater when I got to high school, and I got thrown into chorus. Even though I am not a singer, I still cannot sing. But I stayed in chorus because my guidance counselor said it looks good for colleges. So that's kind of how I fell out. I didn't have an extracurricular to keep doing theater. And I went on to college for business. And when I was home one summer, my mother had found this method acting class with Burgess Jenkins in Winston-Salem. And I went and audited it and fell absolutely in love and was like, oh, this is what I'm missing. That fell out of my life. And so I started taking classes just for fun. And after I graduated with my business degree, I realized that while I was quite good with business, I wasn't passionate about it. And I did the risky move, and I didn't take the secure job with the 401k plan and the amazing salary. And I decided I was going to pursue a life in the arts. And I've just been fortunate to have really, really supportive parents and friends and family. So I've stuck with it, even though it can be challenging, quite challenging at times. So that's where I am today, and I've been acting now for 5 years. And then where I am now, I'm actually currently on the Southeast. I live in Los Angeles now. I moved there last year, but I'm currently on the East Coast working on a project out here currently. And yeah. Is that good? I don't know.
Yeah, that was great. That was great. As a matter of fact, there's so many areas to delve in. One area that I always touch on for every interview is the inspiration portion. And you touched on it very nicely there with the pursuit of your dreams to becoming involved in the performing arts instead of going to the traditional route, the 9-to-5 lifestyle.
I was fortunate enough to have a father that always told me, chase what you love and the money will come. Don't chase the money because, yes, the money will come, but the happiness and the love for it might not. So, when I first started acting, I was like putting in my dues. I was barely breaking even the first 2 years, working like a bunch of indie films and just really, terrible hours, but I loved it so much that, everyone else was like, what are you doing? Like up 16 hours and then still driving in the car. But when you love something so much, you're kind of blinded to what's normal or considered normal. And then I've slowly been able to make it my career and live sustainably off of it. I'm fortunate enough as of now to be able to be doing this full time. So I feel very, very lucky and very fortunate. And but I know I still have a long way to go. But yeah, so.
But
what
yeah,
I did.
and that's all part of the journey. You have a long way to go. It's something that you love. You got to continue doing it, and it's fantastic. I enjoy hearing stories such as this.
Oh, thanks. Okay, good.
When you mentioned that you paid your dues, I'm assuming that applies to picking up the occasional acting gig that is zero or no budget at all just to build up your resume.
Yes, absolutely. And sometimes they say, oh, take whatever you can when you're first starting out because it's a demo reel. But unfortunately, I would not say that a lot of the projects I did at the beginning I could use on my demo reel.
Okay.
However, I don't regret a single job I've taken because every time you're on set, it's a learning experience and you're constantly growing. So I would say for other artists, when you're taking those jobs at the beginning, instead of looking at it as a loss, look at it as an investment, and that in a way you're getting a free acting class and you're also getting a 360 holistic approach to acting because you're also getting to learn,
being on set and how that works on a smaller scale, so that when you do get to the bigger budget films, you'll feel a little more comfortable and you can focus more on acting instead of being overwhelmed by all the other factors like a camera, 3 feet from your face and, lights above you and a boom mic, 2 inches above your head and all the things that in acting classes you don't really get a feel for.
Right. Yes. That can be distracting if you put it that way. Yes, it can.
Yeah. But yeah.
For your latest role, and we're going to be including your interview with interviews with Brett Mullen as well as co-star Katie Carpenter, and we're going to be talking about your latest role, Fantasma, which had a name change for distribution purposes. Now it's titled Bloody Ballet. You portrayed a character by the name of Adriana Mina. Let's delve into this complex character here. What can you tell us about her? When you read the script initially, what really jumped off the page for you about this character?
She was completely unlike me, but like me in the aspect of if I had lived a life as hers, who knows, where I would be on a mental level, because environmental factors obviously play a huge role on people's lives. I honestly, to tell you the truth, when it was the first feature that I ever did that I was the lead on. We filmed it 2.5 years ago, so it was really early into my career that I took on the character. And, I did it for the reason of I just thought, oh, this is really interesting. I've never played, I don't want to give much away, but I never played a character with mental breakdowns and a mental disease. And I thought that it would be challenging, but also really good to add to for future roles, to fill the reservoir of knowledge. So I looked at it as an excuse to do a lot of research. And yeah, I think that's what initially attracted me. It wasn't even really the script and the narrative. Actually, I don't know if Brett or Katie told you, but it changed constantly. So, it was actually every time we were coming to work, it was pretty much we were just doing it scene by scene. We really didn't have a completed script, and the script was ever evolving over the 1.5 years that we filmed it. So really, it was more about the character, and it was kind of difficult to find her arc because we didn't have like a narrative from beginning to end. So I would definitely say it was the most challenging role I've done as a lead in a feature because I couldn't really break it down and do, my usual breakdown for a script. But it was beautiful in the aspect of the challenge because it showed that you can come to work, and even if everything's changing around you, even if the dialogue's changing the day of, that you can step up to that role and you can take it just scene by scene and just trust in the editor that they can make a story out of the scene by scene. So that was a really long-winded answer, but if I answered the question.
I prefer the long-winded answer instead of the one blurb hiccup. It's more information.
Sometimes I've word vomit. I just speak way too much, and then I'm in my head, I'm like, Kendra, why did you just say all that? It doesn't, anyways. So I'm good. I'm glad.
Well, sometimes I'm on the opposite end, and I'm the interviewee, and I do the same thing, and I walk away saying, "Wow, did I just recite a whole book chapter there for that question?"
Okay, well, I'm glad we're in this together. We understand. We have mutual understanding for each other then. Absolutely.
That's why when I cater these questions, it's more as a conversation, unscripted, and I rather feed off of the interviewees' answers instead of just reciting something off paper. when I seen Fantasma, aka Bloody Ballet, which we're going to be reviewing as well to accompany these interviews, one thing that really jumps out for me was the factor that someone in the performing arts, this could relate to them because and of course the film is more enhanced than fiction, but it could relate to the average person, being that they're stressed, they want to accomplish certain goals. They as in this case, a ballet dancer, they have to think of diet and other factors, and then that psychological breakdown. Did this apply to you as a performer as well? Like, yeah, I could really relate to this character.
Yeah, in the aspect of not food, I will say that I'm one of those people that when I'm on set, I'm like, what's for lunch? What time's lunch? I figure out, I calculate when was crew call, so I know 6 hours from then lunch will be. I'm definitely one of those people that I get hangry, so I need food. So I'm always well fed, but I will say sleep deprivation, because I do work really long hours, and sometimes I do feel a little crazy, and you call it slap happy. Right. So actually I'll get like kind of hyper, or just, sometimes I'll do impressions of people that don't even exist. I don't know what I'm doing. And people will just laugh hysterically and be like, what is wrong with you? But it's just, I'm sleepy. So I just like a little kid, it's like you get kind of just crazy. And you're, so I would say that with being in the arts, that sometimes the lack of sleep can definitely get to you, and to, even when I'm having a conversation with someone, I'm, my short-term memory is affected, or, I have a hard time recalling a word or a name just because I'm so exhausted. So I feel a little bit crazy when that happens, and it's just hard because, I wish I could stop time, but I can't, I want to be able to do as many jobs as I can. And sometimes, like this year, I've definitely had to say no to a couple of things just because I realized I won't be able to give it, I always give it 110%, but it's not fair to the role or the project if I'm taking on so much that I can't give it the full attention, the full time, and my full, healthy mind coming at it. So I would definitely feel like I relate to it on that level, the craziness of like no sleep, for sure.
Yeah, and that goes across the board for any content creator in the performing arts, especially now that we have more content creators, more actors, producers taking on being producer, director. And I'm just going to jump the gun here and inject the online web series that you have, Made to Order. That's a perfect example.
Oh, Katie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Instead of waiting for the director, the call back from the audition, you and Katie have created a web series and taken upon yourself to expand your resume with this web series.
We actually started that before we ever did Fantasma. It's going to be so weird calling it Bloody Ballet. I just found out like 3 days ago it got a name change, which, that happens all the time with distribution, but we've been so used to calling it, And actually, when it first came out, it was called Malevolent. And then there was another film that, so then it changed to Fantasma. So it's had a couple titles. But, Katie and I did that when I first got into acting. I met Katie through Kevin. They're actually married now. And Kevin was the first AD on Fantasma. And then he is also was an executive producer on Made to Order. And the three of us did that. And his expertise were just so amazing in keeping it organized and ordered and having that brain that sometimes as creatives we can, we need that, we need everyone. We need all the different minds and how they work. But yeah, that was a major learning experience. We raised a little money, but we mostly put in a lot of our own money. And it was like going to film school, but creating a project, and it was, I think, really beneficial for all of us. And, I'm producing and writing now, and Katie and I, are still talking about other projects for the future. But that was the first project that I ever produced and stepped away well, we were in front of the camera, but, it made me really say, oh, I like being behind the camera as much, if not better. Mm-hmm. And so I've been, the last 2 years, I've been doing a lot of work behind the camera just because I really, really enjoy it. And it uses a different part of my mind and creativity. So yeah, definitely that web series really helped us with not only our acting, but just how we see the business as a whole and how we approach our acting careers. That definitely affected how I approach my career.
Right. And to add to that, Made to Order also led to a major, someone watching the series and it getting noticed by a major producer, and in turn, Katie got a role in a film. Yeah, really cool. Yeah, it's crazy how that works. Creating your own work, you never know who's going to see it. And yeah, I love that. I love stories like that. And I love that it was a project that we did together. She's a super, super talented actress. So, it's cool that they saw her through something that we created and produced. Yeah, it's so cool to me. Right. And that's the beauty of the age that we're living in right now. You could use Instagram, YouTube, Facebook to create your original content, and you never know who's going to be watching. And that could really propel, especially someone starting out their career just like that in the blink of an eye. Yeah.
Yes, it's so true. I mean, there's multiple web series that have been picked up from, these small web series. And then there's also actors like, Katie that have been seen. So yeah, we're living in a new age where it's really stop sitting and waiting for your agent or manager, or focusing even on your, getting an agent manager, and just focus on creating your own material. And one, it's way more rewarding. And two, I think that then you're actively making steps that, you're more likely to be noticed. It's you're one of millions, and, this is such an oversaturated market. So how do you set yourself apart? Do what you love. And even if it doesn't mean, booking some major TV show or major movie, but, working with friends that are also equally as passionate and putting together a project that you're proud of, or even if you know that there's a lot you could do to be better for the next, that you've learned, so that you can just keep growing and getting better for the next projects.
Absolutely. That is so true. And jumping on back to Fantasma, which in my opinion, I prefer that title. It sounds more badass.
I know. My sister was saying that. She was like, no, why did they change it? I was like, producers, it's a distribution thing. But anyways, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately. But you had mentioned that during the filming, the script kept on changing and changing. And now formulating the scenario in my mind, it took a lot of improv to craft your character during certain scenes?
Yeah. I mean, I had a general approach. I had done a lot of research on mental illnesses, and I learned a lot. But when it came to the narrative and going scene by scene, I just had to go off of what I had knowledge of, what I'd studied, and then just letting go. And it was like doing some of them as cold scenes, like going into them, learning the dialogue right before with no prep, and just going in and just doing it, which for some scenes worked, and then some I look back and oh, I wish I could have done this. But, I think we all did the best we could. And like I said, I've never worked that way, and it was a challenge, but also it was a reward to see that that it is possible and you can do it. But yeah, a lot of it was on the day, a new scene, or improving, limited improving just because of editing. You can't improv too much, but yeah, it was definitely an unorthodox way of approaching the script, but it kind of is what we had to do. But we obviously made it work because it's out now for people to watch. I mean, hopefully people like it, but I mean, it came out. So I guess somehow it worked, right?
Oh yeah, it works. The character seems unique, especially in the landscape right now for horror cinema. What is your familiarity with the genre and with female characters, especially the evolution of them, being that compared to years prior, they didn't have that authoritative figure as they do right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was really female-dominated script, all the characters. I'm not going to lie, you're going to probably be like, what? But I don't really watch horror films. I don't watch a lot of movies. People love to cast me in like horror and like comedic things, but I don't know. I don't really like watching. It scares me, even though I know all the images, I know the practical effects, I know what it is, but I don't know. So I don't have a great knowledge of previous horror films, but I did watch Suspiria, the original, which actually Brett was influenced for this film for the shooting style. Mm-hmm. The script was obviously quite different, and like I said, it was ever evolving, ever changing as we were filming it. But the shooting style that he went for, and the inspiration, and the colors, and the tone, he took off of the original Suspiria. So I watched that for influence, and that's mainly female leads. But I don't know. I'm scared to answer your question. I know I'm going around it because I don't know if I'll give anything away with my answer for how it was different for me as the lead in this horror film, and from previous, in comparison to the genre, to the typical characters. I guess it was it was fun because it's a twist. It's fun and it's a twist, and I don't think that the audience will see it coming. I guess. I don't know. I'm terribly answering this question. I'm so sorry. I just don't know. How to answer it without, I'm afraid I'm going to give it away.
Yeah, perfectly understandable, especially since it's fresh off the press, let's say. And it does have a good twist to it, and one particularly that I do enjoy. I'm surprised that you are not into horror. I'm looking at your IMDb, and I'm like, okay, she has a few here. Okay.
Yeah. People love, I don't know. It's just they love me. And it's so funny. It's I always say, how people kind of attract, people that don't like cats. I love cats. I love dogs. I love any kind of animal, but I have friends that don't like cats.
Right.
And I swear the cat will come to the people that don't like cats and jump on their lap. It's kind of like that. It's I don't dislike horror by any means. I just, I don't watch a lot of it. And it's just funny that I keep getting roles and keep getting opportunities for horror. So I think it's one of those things. It's it just keeps, I'm not searching for it. It just keeps coming to me, and the roles. And, like I said, I took this one because, of the character, which I really liked. And then, people love horror. It's the number one genre internationally. So maybe something's wrong with me that I don't like watching horror. I don't know. But
yeah. You did hit the nail on the head. Horror is an underappreciated genre, but it's a great platform that allows for social commentary in the script, and we could just get into so many avenues that reflect our current landscape, political, social, and it's in horror.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think more and more recent horror films, especially, I have been, watching, and I think that there is, I think maybe now too, as I'm growing as an artist, I am getting more into watching the films and seeing it for more than just the picture. Sometimes I think it's just the gore. I'm not I don't like to watch really gory things, but sometimes that has to be shown to represent it. It's the imagery of it, right? So it's the artistic approach. So it's telling it through. Sometimes we don't want to see things, or we want to turn like a blind eye to things. So yes, I agree with you. I think that my appreciation for horror is growing, horror films, but I'm still not like an avid, and I don't watch a ton of movies anyway. So when I do watch a movie, it's not like there's like a high percentage, a high volume of like what I'm watching, but.
Of course, because there's no time as someone in creating content to sit down and watch a film for a couple of hours. You got to get ready for the next project. That's perfectly understandable.
Yeah, but I should be. I mean, when I do have downtime, I can sit and I can binge, and I should be doing that. But I read a lot. I read, and now that I've started writing, I'm writing a lot. But it is important to obviously watch other projects for inspiration and to support fellow artists and filmmakers. So I think. Talk to me in a year and ask me this question. I'll be able to respond better, but yeah.
But you did mention gore, and Fantasma, aka Bloody Ballet, has a lot of gore. How was that experience working with the prosthetics and the blood and all those nice treats that the audience will get to see when they watch the film?
Cold. No, because the fake blood when is really cold, and like there's a scene in the bath that got really cold because we shot it for a while. Just like the water was really cold. It was a really small, like a skeleton crew on most days. Really, really small. Lots of people like giving locations. Like actually, a lot of those scenes are shot in Joe's house. Like there's a lot of it was really cool. Like I loved it. Like the prosthetics, like they were absolutely incredible with what they did, but it was not comfortable by any means, but it looked awesome. So yeah, there was a lot of really good practical effects and special effects makeup that I was really impressed by for how low budget it was. I think it was really, really impressive from like a production value standpoint for sure. They had really it was a small crew, but extremely talented people at what they do. So.
Yeah, I had mentioned it to Brett in my interview with him. And I said there were only two key scenes. One I found in particular that I enjoyed was the bathtub scene. It was sexy and it was frightening at the same time. And also I'll call it the chest bursting scene in the bathroom later on in the film. But I was like, whoa, what is that all about?
And those are both me. Those are both me. So they did like a split screen, and like that's me. And then that was me in like 3 hours of hair and makeup with prosthetics.
Yes.
So, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's like a really trippy scene for sure. That was probably the most uncomfortable. I mean, like 3 hours, just like, because you have to be like completely still, and that reset that took a while. But yeah, that seems definitely an intense. Like it's short, but it's very intense.
And, hey, as long as it gives the visual impact to the film, it is well worth it. I'm sure it was uncomfortable sitting in that chair, getting all that gunk on you, and then taking it off.
Yeah, taking it off. It took a couple of days. Yeah, for sure. It was like, especially like the fake blood in the nails. It was funny because I had to drive for like I also do print like modeling, and I was doing a campaign for like an athletic company, which is just like this like really they wanted like clean nails, like no paint. And I just show up and there's like red like all underneath, and like I tried scrubbing so hard, but there's just only so much you can do, and I was like, I'm so sorry.
Oh my god.
But they were really sweet and understanding about it. But I mean, and luckily it was all stills, so they were able to, but
Photoshop.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't want to have any other job around the time you're doing a horror film because you don't know what will stay on your skin or whatnot. It's sacrifices for the art, but worth it. For the narrative.
Absolutely. Yeah. And of course, with horror, you have the physical. You have to jump into it physically as well, and you can get the bruises. In your case, you didn't have no bruises; you just had extra makeup.
Oh no! I got bruises.
Oh.
I definitely got bruises. My nose got bruised when they did a face and a body mold for that scene. And like when the cast came off, like my nose like was totally bruised for like a week from like where it hardened. And it was funny too because I'm like, well, I was claustrophobic, but after that experience, it made me conquer a fear because it was like, they're like, okay, do you want us to do the head and the body separate? And I was like, well, what would you guys prefer? And they're like, well, if we just do it all together, it'll be way faster and it'll be easier for us. And I was like, okay, let's just do that. And I didn't realize that it was plaster. It's like, getting cast on your arm. It's plaster. And so where my neck was, the only thing you could breathe out of was like your nostrils. Mm-hmm. And like I have a deviated septum, so I can only really breathe out of one nostril. So I was like, yeah, and I just started hyperventilating, and they could tell, and they were calming me down with cool towels. And it was just one of those moments where they could cut it off, and then it ruins it, and it's like a lot of money. And then their time, or like I just could breathe through it. And so I just had to like go inward, and I just breathed through it. And like after that, I was like, oh my gosh, I think I just conquered my fear of claustrophobia. So, so I got a bruise, but in the process, I conquered a fear. So, and then this scene, there was a breakaway that I get hit in the back of the head with. And that breakaway, we only had one. Because it was low budget, we only had one, and it was a cheap one, so it was really thick. It wasn't thin like they're supposed to be, and Katie accidentally missed and hit me with the base of it, the thickest part, and we had to stop because I like for a second, like because where it hit my head, that was probably the only part of the movie where I was like, okay, that's was a little too dangerous and too real, because with the head you want to be careful, but I had a lump on my head for like 2 weeks, and I had to ice it, and but the shot looks great. I mean, that was a one take. We only had one take option, and I went with it. I mean, like I turned and I got up, and I was so dizzy from it, but I just kept going because I was like, okay, like this is our only shot, and I am not getting hit like that again. So I went with it, and then afterwards I immediately got ice, and I just like closed my eyes and laid there for a while to like recover. But yeah, there was some bruises for sure. Oh my
gosh, that's some stories to say. Oh, I will continue, but I'm going to close out the interview now. I know you have to get to the other one. Any upcoming projects that you can share, and also your social media handles?
Yes. So my social media would be Kendra Carelli, just my name, Carelli. My upcoming project, the one I'm working on right now, I don't know if it's kind of secret. I can't talk about it, but you will see it. And then I have some ones called Killer Single Dad that came out in this summer, and then another one called Bride's Revenge, and then another one called Killer Reputation. Lots of killer. So the Killer Single Dad was called Daddy's Coming to Get You, but it was changed for distribution purposes as well. So those are all. The last two are coming out soon. The Killer Single Dad is currently out. And then I'm working on a film out here, which is totally different genre, not horror at all. And that I am the lead on as well. So that's like a 32-day shoot period. So, yeah, that would be that. And then we're working on, my writing partner and we just sold a script. So we are actually in co-producing it. So we are working on that too. So some behind the scenes work and projects that are going on. So busy, but worth it, and excited. And I embrace the lack of sleep because it means that I'm working. So I'll never complain. I'll never complain about it for sure.
Exactly. Well, all the best to you. Congratulations on your flourishing career. And perhaps we'll meet again sometime next year when you release your next horror project.
Okay. That sounds great. Thank you so much for speaking with me, Ken.
Segment 4, Trailer First Impressions. The City of Gold.
The location of El Dorado.
The lost city of gold?
Well, that's what the Spaniards called it, but it means much, much more than that.
El Dorado is a sacred place where anything you wish will come to reality.
Go!
You guys can't possibly believe that.
The story has believed in it enough to slaughter a nation.
Where is the City of Gold? We'll help you find El Dorado.
Kicking off our final segment for this podcast, our trailer first impressions, is the film City of Gold. This is a rare instance that we have an action adventure film as part of our slate of trailers to review. The synopsis: an anguished media magnate, Jonathan Davenport, accompanies his estranged lover to the Peruvian Amazon in pursuit of a reclusive artist living in rebel occupation. Despite their philanthropic intentions, the mission proves to be the harbinger of something dark and ominous, rooted deep within Jonathan. City of Gold is directed by Harry Locke IV, and it is written by Ronald A. Bloom. Okay, now for the trailer. I haven't seen a trailer using over-exaggerated music, and the dialogue doesn't match whatsoever what's going on, because you have a mishmash of voiceovers and action scenes. Yeah, okay, whoever edited that trailer, good job. I'm being very sarcastic here. Stacy, what did you think about this trailer? So much shit was going on there. I don't know.
Oh yeah, and honestly, just this roundup of films and trailers, I was squinting my eyes at pretty much all of them. Like, what is going on here? I said, just like you mentioned, it was the music was intense.
It was intense,
but then it just accompanies, and then you just accompanied by these random clips that's just shooting at you, really, and you can't really make sense of it. But looking at the trailer, it kind of reminded me, before reading the synopsis, it kind of reminded me of the film The Beach with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yes, I could see where that,
remember that you got this intriguing city, people always talk about it, but it's not on the map and everything, and you go to it, and then just weird things start to happen. So that's what this trailer reminded me of, how you got this paradise city, or supposedly paradise, but there lies secrets within it that starts to unfold.
Right. Yeah, I could see that parallel. And also, what I see here is the classic treasure hunting film. And of course, you gotta have the shiesty villain who wants the treasure or all to him or herself. And then you have jealousy and all these things that goes behind a treasure hunting film. We've seen that countless times. For example, Indiana Jones, Tomb Raider. The list is endless. Even The Mummy with Brendan Fraser. All of those films carry the same plot as City of Gold. The trailer, I dislike the trailer. It's just, whoever edited it did a terrible job. Nothing matches at all. And all the scenes that are given, it's poorly put together. So the trailer is just shit. I rather watch the film to see how I can't even get how the acting is. That's how bad this trailer looks.
Yes, you really can't make much from the trailer alone. Again, you just random scenes just popping out at you that you can't even make sense of.
Right. And then you have a voiceover while people are talking. And who did this? They must have been drunk, seriously. And that music, that's a type of music that I'm strapped in the dentist chair, and you see the drill coming at your mouth. He's gonna do some filling or something, and you hear that music like that's what I'm feeling here.
Yeah.
It's just, that's the shittiest trailer I've seen in a long time. Wow. I'm sorry. That's just bad. Usually I go for cinematography, how the acting is, or something like that. This trailer is just bad. I'd rather watch the film to make my judgment, to see how everything is put together.
Demon Eye.
Tell me about the burning girl.
It's just folklore from the moors. A young weaver named Sally Pearson was woken in the night. She rose from her bed, grabbed her father's tools, and crafted a piece of tin into the shape of an eye. A demon eye. She said it spoke to her.
Saying what?
That a famine would gut the moors and its people would perish if they didn't turn their back on sin.
Here we go, Ken. Again, another trailer where it's like, what the heck is going on exactly? Demon Eye is directed and written by Ryan Simmons. The cast stars Darren Day, Liam Fox, Kate James, and Ellie Goffey. And I think for the first time in the trailer impressions for our podcast, there is no synopsis on the IMDb. So we really don't know what this film is about. As far as the synopsis goes, all we have to rely on is the trailer. So with that said, Ken, what did you think about Demon Eye?
Demon Eye, it's a mystery to me. Demon Eye, okay. I'm going to go through my notes, and it says here, Demon Eye, British supernatural horror, written and directed by Ryan Simmons, which you had mentioned. It's about a young woman who returns to her father's country house in the moors following his mysterious death, and finds a cursed amulet connected to local witchcraft. She discovers the amulet has dark power and will grant you your greatest wish, but in return, she locks two deadly demons who haunt her. Okay, so I had the synopsis, and I didn't read the synopsis until now, and neither did you. And that was intentional because I wanted to see. When I first saw this trailer, I said, how is Stacy, my co-host, going to interpret these trailers, and how am I going to interpret them? You can't. How can you? It doesn't explain nothing at all. And if it wasn't for the synopsis, we'd be at a loss. And if IMDb doesn't have a synopsis and somebody comes across this trailer on YouTube or whatever other platform, they're gonna be as clueless as we are. Yeah, I would never have guessed that would be what this film is about.
Yeah, same here. I actually, to tell the truth, all of these trailers I watched twice, just to try to understand them. And again, with Demon Eye, it's just a series of clips that are thrown at you. It looks like several themes going on in there, and you can't really make sense of any of them. But this poster art is, even the poster art doesn't really convey what the film is about.
Right. Because in the trailer, you see that there's an amulet, of course, the demon eye. The guy's explaining what the demon eye is, so on and so forth. Okay, we have that part of the plot explained in the trailer. We have the young woman. Okay, she's the protagonist. But all of a sudden, things start turning weird. So we don't know, how does this amulet, what does it do? What's the purpose here? Oh, in a way, I think it's good. Let's flip it. Let's flip the other side of the coin. I think it's good because perhaps the viewers watching this trailer would get curious and watch the film because they want to know what the story is about. We could see it from that point of view.
Yes, and don't forget about that the burning girl. Like, what's her story? Who is the burning girl? You get a glimpse of this. I'm gonna say she's a ghost or a spirit that just pops up.
Right.
So what's her story? You know, it's just so many questions that for the first time. Well, I'm not even gonna say for the first time ever because this was a interesting roundup of films here. So,
right.
Trailers, I should say. But the first time where the roundup of trailers was just like, huh?
Yeah, that's true. It's true. It's weird. I mean, it's weird. But I gotta admit, for Demon Eye, what they conveyed in the trailer and was something that I look forward to is the tension, the acting, the cinematography. It looks good, looks well put together. You could tell the plot is mysterious in a way. I think this is going to be a slow burner, that the ghost supernatural part would be sprinkled here and there, and it's mostly going to be story. You could tell it would be that way. And the acting looks solid. I don't see any B-movie acting. Doesn't look cheesy. The lines are good. So yeah, even though it's difficult to interpret, I think Demon Eye could be a good supernatural film to look out for.
Yes, and that's actually the case with this whole roundup of films. Even though the trailers themselves are mysterious, they actually look like really good concepts.
Right, and it's British. We talk about this so many times, how the overseas market are really thinking outside the box when it comes to horror cinema. And here you have a supernatural horror film based on, let's say, urban legend or local folklore. We don't know if the Demon Eye is probably a local folklore. So, and that's something that Hollywood is missing the point, because they always focus on reboots.
Well, and it also states in IMDb that it looks like a release date in 2018 in the UK. I do believe, I mean, it doesn't give an exact date, June 1st, 2018 in the UK. So it's actually weird that there wouldn't be a synopsis posted yet, if that's when it was released. Because in some cases, that has not been updated in IMDb, and it hasn't even released yet. It's still in the development stage.
Right. And all these trailers that, with the exception of the first one, City of Gold, we have Demon's Eye, we have Blood Bags, and we have This Weekend Will Change Your Life. All three of these trailers had their debut at AFM, which is the American Film Market. The event just passed. It was held at Santa Monica, California. And Devilworks is representing the worldwide rights for Demon's Eye. According to my notes, there's no word yet on a release date either from my end. So we gotta have to wait and see. Perhaps first or second quarter 2019, which would be the first 6 months 2019.
This weekend will change your life.
And here for the self-discovery weekend.
We can begin our journey.
I'd really like to get out and meet more people.
It became impossible to make love.
He said if I ever told anyone, he would...
Next on our trailer first impressions is the film titled This Weekend Will Change Your Life. This film is directed by Robert Mullen and he also serves as the writer. The synopsis: 7 people leave London for a therapeutic weekend in the Cotswolds where they are told it will, quote, change their life, unquote. It does, but not in the way they imagine. Now, this trailer has tremendous what the fuck moments. What is going on with these people? Looks like they are on some type of drug, a hallucinogenic drug. And the weekend excursion that they went to change their life, literally change their life, because they are faced with psychological problems that they need to fix, either betrayal or something like that. They really get their hands dirty to fix their problems. Stacy, what did you get from this trailer?
I have to agree with you, WTF. Only thing I can gather from this trailer is that it's a cultish film of some sort. Yeah, like I kind of see some kind of cult that are like brainwashing these people or something like that. But just as you said, again, a bunch of random scenes that are thrown at you, and again, you cannot make sense of them.
Right. And that the synopsis that I had presented is off of IMDb, but the synopsis from the press release from the AFM market has a different explanation. Perhaps you could shed some light on how this movie is crafted. It states, the synopsis is, a group of misfits head to a therapy retreat in the backcountry hoping to develop self-awareness. However, waiting for them is a manipulative leader who targets the damaged and vulnerable, creating a toxic atmosphere which leads to crime and murder. So Stacy, you hit it on the head. A cult.
Yeah, I can see that from the clips. That's exactly what came to my mind. I'm like, this must be some kind of cult brainwashing people, or doing some messed up things. And honestly, I'm willing to bet that the film itself goes way deeper than the trailer actually shows.
Right. And for these type of films, I'm familiar with them. Act 1 will go a little bit slow, introducing the characters, their problems. And by the end of Act 1 into Act 2, that's when shit is gonna hit the fan. And all this tension and psychological drama is just gonna go from 0 to 60. And I think there's going to be a good twist in this movie in the final act in this film.
Blood bags.
You know what I'm gonna miss the most about Italy?
The boys?
The buildings.
This place is obviously abandoned.
This is very stupid.
Besides,
We're just a couple of girls. We're not criminals. Petra?
A creature stalks the corridors of an abandoned mansion. Two friends break in and discover that all exits have been sealed off, and the creature that haunts them is growing hungry for blood. There is no escape. Bloodbath is directed by Emiliano Renzani, co-written by David Mella, Alessandro Regaldo, and Scarlett Amaris. The cast stars McKenna Geiler, Emanuela Tretta, Marta Tananian, and Alberto Setti. So Bloodbath in the trailer is another trailer with random scenes thrown at you, and you don't know what the heck is going on. But I will say that this was one intense trailer. You can tell that there are some pretty interesting violent scenes in there, and looks like there may be a great deal of gore, some torture. The creature, quote unquote, you don't really get a glimpse of, so you don't know what it is. But until I read the synopsis, I actually pictured some kind of psycho torturing people and storing their blood in bags. So, Ken, what did you think about Bloodbath?
I think the trailer did well to show the plot, to show the protagonist, to show the antagonist, but to show, I mean, they don't really show him. As the synopsis says, a creature. We see someone in shadow, and I had the same thought as you did. I was thinking this is a serial killer who traps these girls inside the building and starts hunting them. I didn't know it was a creature, but nevertheless, we have everything here in this trailer. We have good cinematography. The acting, it seems compelling. And the setting, most of this film looks like it's going to be shot in the dark or low light conditions, which builds tension because you don't know what's lurking in the corner. And I do love a survival horror film, and I think this is a reversal of home invasion, because they're invading his home, not him invading their home. So it's a good reversal.
Yes, I love that. I love when they go into, territory they're not supposed to be in, or they're unlocking something that should stay buried. I love those kinds of concepts. It kind of gives them what they deserve, because it's like, okay, you dumbass, why did you do that?
Right.
This is not your property. It's those curious people,
right,
that go trampling off somewhere they don't even belong. For one, that's trespassing, you dummy. And for two, this is what you get.
Exactly. What, like they say, curiosity kills the cat. And here we have two felines that get trapped in a very elaborate maze. I'm interested. This is cool. It's a slasher. It's a reverse home invasion concept. Yeah, and plus, I want to see what this creature looks like, and it looks gory, even though they just give clips here and there, but it looks intense, and I can't wait for this film to come out.
Yes, that's one thing about that trailer. It is very intense. And, you said there's a shadow in there. I'm like, I'm kind of like picturing some kind of creature like from The Descent.
Right. That's what it looks like. But it looks like it, but it doesn't look like it. Because I thought it was just a guy who has a weird looking shaped face and shaved head. So I was kind of thinking that as well.
Yes.
A creature stuck. Why would he be? You see, there's so many questions now. Why is he doing in an abandoned mansion? What is this guy? What is his business? Why are these girls dumb enough to go inside an abandoned mansion? Come on.
Hey, they were probably trying to rob the place. They got themselves in a situation they can't get out of. Like that movie, Don't Breathe. They find out this disabled man is rich, he's loaded. They go try to rob him, and heck, you get yourself in a situation now that you got to fight to get out of.
Right, that's true. And also there are a lot of urban adventurers, people who break into places to do ghost hunting or for photography. Yes, I could see that. Yeah, it does make sense. Two curious girls going into some place they're not supposed to. Yeah, I could see how that reflects. Usually, you see, when you watch so many horror films, you say to yourself, why? But okay, you step back and you think like, yeah, people do this in real life.
Yeah.
I certainly won't.
People go and
It says, do not enter, I am not entering. If someone tells me the place is haunted, maybe I'll walk in out of curiosity. How about you? Will you walk in?
No. I will not walk in any place that says danger, haunted, do not enter. I've seen enough movies to not have that kind of adventurous spirit, or adventurous adventurous spirit. There you go. I've seen enough films.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you learned your lessons through horror films. Exactly.
I sure did. And then also, you hear some weird noise. Yeah, no. I've seen enough films to know never go where the weird noise is. Just keep going.
Just keep walking away. Walk away.
Yeah, let some other person be the good Samaritan and call it in. Or maybe wait till I get home and then call it in. Yeah, so about 45 minutes ago, I heard a weird noise here.
Yeah, you never know. Exactly, that is so true. Well, DevilWorks is going to be releasing this film. But no release date yet. They representing the worldwide rights. And here we go. Once again, foreign film, foreign concepts, indie films, really pushing the envelope, thinking outside the box. I don't see any downfalls here. I like the acting. I like the cinematography. I'm anxious to see this film come out. But Hollywood, hello, we have two examples here. We have Blood Bags, we have Demon's Eye. Why can't you guys come up with something like this instead of doing reboots?
Yes. Yeah. This whole slate of films here, except for really City of Gold. City of Gold seems like a film that Hollywood would try to pull off. Hey, they might even try to reboot City of Gold.
Hey,
even though
yeah, they did it already. They had Tom Cruise in it. It's called The Mummy. That's what they did.
Oh yeah.
It's the exact same thing. Yeah. Wow. But Blood Bags, I'm keeping my eye out for this one. It's interesting. I like it. It reeled me in, and that's how a trailer's supposed to be. Keep the antagonist a secret and provide just enough information and cinematic value to grab the viewer's attention. Thank you for tuning in to DK Mag Season 9 Episode 2. Once again, my name is Ken R2s, your host. I'm also the founder for DK Mag, and joining me in this podcast as co-host was
Stacy Cox, staff correspondent. Be sure to stop by our Patreon page at patreon.com/DKMag. Your donations will help us bring future episodes. As a patron, you'll receive bonus content as well as free and discounted on upcoming DKMag merchandise.
And of course, in this podcast, we featured an exclusive interview with filmmaker Brett Mullen, actress Katie Carpenter, and actress Kendra Carelli for our coverage on Fantasma, which underwent a title change, Bloody Ballet. And for our trailer first impressions, I would say, Stacy, there were some highlights here, and a couple of them would have to be, first for me, would have to be blood bags. I really enjoyed the cinematography there. And Demon Eye, I enjoyed the acting in that one. I think the two distinct films across the opposite ends, and both from the overseas market.
Demon Eye, This Weekend Will Change Your Life, and Blood Bag all had interesting concepts to me. Again, trailers were a bit on the mysterious side, but in a good way, and reeled me in to where I want to watch them.
Precisely, I concur. And for our movie news, Night of the Living Dead, you still have to see the original and the reboot. There's two versions. They're both exactly the same. One is in black and white, one is in color. But this the sequel is going to be from the brains behind the original. So, and they're eyeing a release for next year. Let's see how that works out.
Yes, I still have to see Night of the Living Dead as well as The Walking Dead series.
Yeah, you have a lot of catching up to do.
I am looking. I know. I have a lot of work to do. A lot of catching up to do. I know Walking Dead has what, like 7-8 seasons now.
About that, yeah. That's a lot of episodes.
I'm like, oh man.
It's a lot of binge watching. I know. And also Swamp Thing, it's in development. I'm looking forward to that one. And The Purge, a successful first season, and USA Network is moving on to season 2. This is, I think, The Purge and The Walking Dead. I think The Purge will outlast The Walking Dead, considering how you don't have to rely on characters. It's practically an anthology centered on Purge Night. So you could just keep adding characters.
Definitely keep adding the characters, keep the storyline fresh. I mean, it's definitely a concept that garners like countless of paths. So that one, The Purge, really should not go stale anytime soon.
Right. And it goes across the board. It crosses genres because it has action and drama and horror, and kids of all ages enjoy this. And I mean kids, I don't mean actual kids, I mean adults between the ages of 18 and 50. In any event, DK Mag, we are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest at DK Mag, not DK Magazine, not DK, not the letter D or K. It boggles my mind why people would think that. Anyway, at DK Mag. And also we're on Google Music, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. Thank you for tuning in.